need 12, right? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Griffin.
Here.
Bishop. Conwell. Gray. Hairston. Harsh. House Jones. Jones. Casey. Kelly. Moore. McCormack. Polensik. Santana. Slife. Spencer. Starr. You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. Will everyone please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance? And I'm going to ask today if we have a special moment of silence and a special prayer to go out to all of the people that are dealing with the tragedy in the Middle East. So once again, I want to make sure that we have a moment of condolence for everyone that have been tragically lost their lives in the conflict. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please dispense with the journal.
By Councilmember Harsh, that the reading of the minutes of the last meeting be dispensed with, the journal approved. Seconded by Councilmember Polensik.
Thank you. We will now move to public comment. I do want to make sure that I instruct everyone that we do allow for free speech at public comment, but I'm going to ask for everyone to please do not use derogatory, defamatory, or language to impugn the character of anybody in this well from the administration or council, as well as please do not impugn the character or the integrity of each other. This is public comment, and I'm probably not like most council presidents. I respect your right for free speech, but I also will not tolerate disrespect of this body. So, at this time, we'll start out with public comment, and we have Alec Popovicker from Cleveland Heights, and he's here to talk about an appeal for peace. He's not representing anyone, and he's not paid by anyone. Is Mr. Popovicker, is he here? Alec Popovicker once. Please come to the mic right here up front. And please acknowledge your time of 3 minutes. Once again, signs and signage is not allowed in here. So please keep that in mind too. Please respect the rules of this chamber. Please respect the rules of this chamber. Mr. Popovicker, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, esteemed council members and fellow Clevelanders. First of all, I'd like to thank those who have had the courage in these difficult times to speak the truth with integrity and courage and support the only democracy in the Middle East, the only free country, the only country that shares our values, the State of Israel in its fight against terrorism and propaganda that's been decimated in the United States, at our universities, at our business places, by the media. This is a very difficult time. I'd like to speak also to the community, the Muslim community of Cleveland, and remind them that Israelites and Ishmaelites are brothers, cousins. We share a father, Abraham, alav shalom, of blessed memory, may peace be upon him. Ibrahim, he had 2 sons, Ishmael and Yitzchak. Ishmael settled in Arabia, and when Abraham visited him, they built the first house of prayer that's known now as the Kaaba because it has a stone from Adam. Also, Israelites built a temple, a house of prayer in their capital, the city of Jerusalem, that was made so by Nabi Dawood, David, the king of Israel, on the spot where Adam was created. Judaism remembers Adam because we're all created equal. Also in Islam, there's no racism, so whoever teaches you the Jews are deceitful, the Jews don't serve Allah, they're not real Muslims. They're perverting Islam for their own agendas. I want to remind you that in 1948, the year 1948 of creation, Abraham was born. In 1948, of current era, the State of Israel was reborn. Also in 1948, United Nations passed the first human rights treaty. It's called the Convention of Genocide, and it includes incitement of genocide, which is speech that is not covered by free speech, that incites genocide. This is something that I believe has been propagated at local campuses by people like Abbas Hamideh. And I ask this council to please adopt IHRA definition of anti-Semitism.
Time.
Thank you. God bless you.
Next, we have Summer Hassan, and Summer is from Berea, and Summer would like to address comments made by our mayor, and Summer is not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Summer, you have the floor. Please acknowledge your time.
Good evening. It's been almost 2 weeks since I've been here last, Mayor Bibb, and to say I'm disappointed is an understatement, but I'm not surprised. I'm well aware that it's easier to follow what the rest of your colleagues from Congresswoman Shontel Brown to President Biden and the White House have to say, rather than to be the outlier. But hiding under blatant ignorance makes you look like a follower, and last I checked, you were elected to be a leader, to direct yourself and others in a manner that will better society. Rather than acknowledging the countless people that have come to see these council meetings speak up and educate you, you've dismissed them and the Palestinian struggle we've all been trying to get you to acknowledge. Your silence since your tweet has been deafening. When you remain silent, you are complicit in the actions of the oppressor. However, I have to question, you haven't come out in support of the racist state of Israel since that tweet, which begs me to wonder as to whether you tweeted that statement in support or if you wanted to follow the rest of the world's ignorance. You are careless with your words, Mayor Bibb, and that affects more than you think. With your tweet and lack of a retraction, you made it okay for people to be violent to both Muslims and Palestinians alike. With your tweet, you have reignited the world's privilege to be Islamophobic. Just last week, my mom was walking into a grocery store and almost got run down in a parking lot for her being a visibly Muslim woman. We have all received threats to our safety at the expense of our words, and we are still willing to put ourselves on the line to stand up for our people and what's right. Mayor Bibb, to put this bluntly, you are a black man living in the United States. The systematic oppression and blatant racism that is present on a day-to-day basis doesn't just resonate within the black community. We have all seen what arrogance, ignorance, and white supremacy can do to a nation and its people. And by supporting Zionism and genocide, you are inherently also supporting white supremacy. Black Lives Matter wasn't a sentiment that began in 2020. Black lives have always mattered, and that fight isn't something new to you. When you defended Israel and its genocide, you fall into the hole of all lives matter. I know that all lives matter, Mayor Bibb, but today we highlight the fact that you refuse to believe that Palestinian lives matter. Mayor, my voice matters. My life matters. The lives of Palestinians matter. I don't know how many more ways that we as a people can tell you before you finally decide that equality goes to all and not just some. Palestinians are people too, just like Ukrainians and the people of Congo and Sudan. How many ways do we all have to prove to you that we are worth your time before you finally care? Palestinians, despite all their trials and hardships, have more humanity and compassion than anyone. We strive for excellence and success because there is no other option. We are the descendants of generations of resilient Palestinians that have persevered through all of the bombings and burnings and blockades. Generations later, and our blood runs deep and our pride runs strong. Respectfully, Mr. Mayor, the fact that your initiatives don't add up to your actions makes you look like a hypocrite. Words and actions have meaning, Mr. Bibb. You were elected to protect and advance the greater Cleveland, and rather than doing what you promised, you were hiding behind Western media in your blanket of American privilege. I asked you this a few weeks ago, and I'll ask you again because it seems that the answer is still a mystery. When did you decide that some lives are worth more than others? Free Philistine.
Next, we have Ben Milgram from Solon. His topic is Israel, and he is not representing anyone, and he is not being paid by anyone. Is Ben Milgram available? Ben Milgram. Ben Milgram. Is Ben Milgram here? Ben Milgram. Ben Milgram going once. Ben Milgram going twice. Ben Milgram is not here. Next, we have Chris Hudson. Next, we have Chris Hudson. He's from Ward 12. He wants to make a topic that he's going to speak on is recent comments on the crisis in Gaza, and he is representing PSL, and he is not being paid by anyone. Mr. Hudson, you have the floor.
Good evening. I am here to demand corrections to the egregious misstatements issued regarding the crisis in Gaza, and I am here to appeal to you all as parents. My daughter, born in June of last year, has been medically complex since before we met her. A routine ultrasound at 38 weeks ended in a rush to the hospital for an emergent birth, and we were in the NICUs for 46 days. Despite a 50-50 shot at life, our beautiful girl made it home, and the following months were often hard, but so much more often they were overflowing with the kind of joy and love that I never knew existed. Then, in June of this year, just before her first birthday, she was diagnosed with leukemia. Thanks to the care she can receive here in our city, my daughter has a good chance at a full recovery. But if my child was a Palestinian child and our city was Gaza City, my child would not exist anymore. For 16 years, the Israeli blockade has prevented Gaza from importing many of the most common pediatric cancer diagnosis tools, and without these tools, children often die of entirely curable cancers like the one that my daughter is being treated for currently. In the past 3 weeks, hospitals have lost power due to fuel shortages and the IDF bombing campaigns. The babies in those NICUs who needed a ventilator to breathe, like my daughter did for the first weeks of her life, are now gone. 1 million of the 2.3 million residents of Gaza are children. More than 3,000 of those children have been killed by the Zionist entity during these past few weeks alone, more than have been claimed by conflict globally in any of the last 3 years. These statistics and facts may seem remote, but each of these children in Gaza had names. They had friends, they had bullies, they had teachers, they had siblings, they smiled and laughed and they filled their parents' hearts with love. All of the children who have been killed by Zionism and its proselytizers, not just in this year by the bombs, but in the years before, by the lack of medical supplies, by malnutrition and unclean water, by IDF rifles as their fathers cradled them in the street, by the total war and the genocide that is part and parcel of the settler colonial project of Zionism, all of these children had full lives to live. Lives that were robbed. So we demand that this council pass a resolution to stand in defense of Palestinian children, to call for a ceasefire, an end to the occupation and the blockade, opposing any military aid to the IDF, condemn Israel's current and historical war crimes, recognize the Zionist campaign of ethnic cleansing for what it is. I have looked over the edge of the bottomless pit of despair that is the loss of my child, and I was terrified. Have you seen the depths of that chasm? If not, check your phone. Parents in Gaza are being pushed into that abyss by Zionist policy, and the least that you owe them, that you owe the memories of their children, is a denunciation of their killer.
Next, we have Sue Borison from Beechwood. The topic that Sue would like to discuss is civility, and she is not representing anyone, and she is not being paid by anyone. Is Sue Borison here? Sue Borison. Sue Borison. Sue Borison going once. Sue Borison going twice. Sue Borison is not here. Next, we have Cameron Damaska from Ward 17, and the topic that Cameron would like to discuss is local and international investments, and Cameron represents the Party for Socialism and Liberation and is not being paid by anyone. You have the floor.
Evening, Council. For the past 3 weeks, you have all heard from the Palestinian community and people of good conscience describing the horrors and genocide ongoing in Gaza. Despite this, many of you have continued to endorse statements which do not reflect the real situation in Gaza or how this situation is affecting our city. Over 8,000 Palestinians in Gaza have been murdered by Israel so far, 1.4 million have been displaced, and hospitals, churches, mosques, and schools all have been bombed. At the same time, students at CSU and CASE have been targeted, harassed, labeled as terrorists for as little as hosting humanitarian aid fundraisers. A local 20-year-old Palestinian man was hit by a car while the driver was shouting, "Kill all Palestinians." A vigil is being held in Cleveland Heights right now, mourning hostages, as over 200 Israelis are held hostage in Gaza and 10,000 Palestinians are held hostage in Israeli prisons. All the while, the Israeli military is carpet bombing Gaza, ethnically cleansing Palestinians and showing no regard for the hostages. The outrageous crimes of Israel must end, and we demand action. On behalf of the thousands in Cleveland who have mobilized against Israel's genocide, we share with you all a resolution which affirms our support and solidarity with the people of Gaza. This resolution is inspired by the one passed in Richmond, California, with hopes that you all will match their bravery. We have copies of this resolution here. Stand on the right side of history, stand up out of your seat, grab a copy of it, read it, and introduce this resolution today. Gotcha. And for the rest of my time, I will read parts of this resolution and give you all an opportunity to grab it. Whereas the city of Cleveland stands in solidarity with the Palestinian people of Gaza, who are currently facing a campaign of ethnic cleansing and collective punishment by the state of Israel, and whereas Israel is now engaged in an ethnic cleansing campaign by explicitly requiring 2 million Palestinians to leave Gaza immediately or risk being bombed in their homes by the Israeli military, whereas Gaza is known as the world's largest open-air prison due to the ongoing, unbearable living conditions imposed by the state of Israel, including a full land, air, and sea blockade, enclosure of its borders by concrete walls and barbed wire fences, and the strict prohibition of Palestinians from leaving and entering the territory freely. And whereas the blockade has caused 42% unemployment rate in Gaza, while 84% of the population relies on humanitarian aid, 41% of Palestinians have too little food, 60% of Palestinian children are anemic, and the entire Gazan population cannot rely on more than 2 to 4 hours of continuous electricity a day. And whereas the state of Israel would not be able to maintain an apartheid regime without the enormous military aid provided by the United States every year, also depriving Americans of money for their own urgent needs. And whereas we mourn the loss of all civilians on both sides from October 7th to the present, also throughout the decades of displacement, occupation, oppression, blockade endured by Gaza. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the city of Cleveland takes seriously the entry of Never Again, and that the historical memory of the Holocaust means fighting ethnic cleansing and apartheid everywhere. Be it further that the city calls for the immediate exchange of 200 Israeli...
Sir, your time is up.
I hope you all will read this.
Sir, your time is up, sir. Thank you. Next, we have Noel Nasir, and Noel is from Ward 15, Edgewater, wants to mention about council statements on Israel and the genocide in Palestine, and Noel is not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Noel, you have the floor.
Good evening. My name is Noel Nasser, and I'm a proud Palestinian American living here in the city of Cleveland. I'd like to begin by saying that history did not start October 7th. Colonization by nature is a violent and ongoing process that Palestinians have been facing for the last 75 years. Gaza specifically has been under a military blockade for over a decade, where 2.3 million people, half of them being children, are kept trapped on a small strip of land surrounded by massive concrete walls and Israeli military forces. Israel has full control over whom and what goes in and out by land, air, and sea, and full power of cutting off food, water, electricity, and humanitarian aid, as we have especially been witnessing. This is not a war between two countries, as Palestine does not even have its own sovereign country. Instead, this is the result of the ongoing illegal Israeli settler colonial project funded by the United States with $3.8 billion in aid every year. Over the years, we have witnessed Israel commit many war crimes, among them the use of white phosphorus and the bombing of hospitals, residential homes, bakeries, and schools. If an American school had an active shooter or a group of shooters inside, no one would ever suggest it is okay to bomb the whole building filled with adults and children to reach the threat. But just like Israel will bomb churches, mosques, safe routes, and other densely populated areas, their goal is not to reach their supposed threat of Hamas. Israel has been very clear and open about their campaign to murder and displace the indigenous population of Palestinians, whom they refer to as human animals. Just this past weekend, Israel cut off all communications in Gaza, where people could not communicate with each other, call out for medical aid, or contact the outside world. And Gaza's Ministry of Education announced an end to their current school year due to the number of students that are dead. Over 3,000 children are dead, as the death toll in Gaza has reached over 8,000 since October 7th. America, since its foundation, has actively chosen to be on the wrong side of history. You, Cleveland City Council, can reflect on the words you are hearing from your constituents, both Arab and non-Arab, on the Palestinian cause, and realize that you have been mistaken, that you have morals, that you cannot be bought out, and you want to go down in history as someone who used their position to speak up about an ongoing genocide. It is your choice now to decide what side of history you will end up on. Our community will continue to mobilize voters, as I know myself I have voted in every election since I've turned 18. We will speak out at public comment, call you and all of our representatives, and rally together in solidarity with all alongside our non-Arab allies, because we all recognize that the fight for Palestinian liberation is not just a Palestinian issue, but an issue of humanity. There is no peace in occupation, there is no peace in genocide, and there will be no peace until Palestine is free. Thank you. Free Palestine.
Next up, we have Kristen Lee. Kristen Lee is from Cleveland Heights. Kristen Lee wants to talk about the topic of Palestine. Kristen Lee is not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. You have the floor.
Good evening. City Council, you may have noticed names and numbers lifted up by audience members here today. These are names and ages of children killed by Israel just in the past month. This is a mere fraction of the over 3,000 children murdered by the IDF in October. This room could not possibly contain them all. Tonight, I stand here to demand that Mayor Bibb and Cleveland City Council retract all statements made in support of the genocide committed by the State of Israel. Furthermore, I demand the Council to publicly denounce the indiscriminate slaughter of Palestinians and call for a ceasefire. Finally, I demand that Cleveland City Council issue a resolution affirming Cleveland's support for the Palestinian people and truly represent where the hearts of their constituents lay. Amnesty International is yet again investigating the war crimes committed by Israel. They are bearing witness to the indiscriminate bombing of civilian centers, the use of white phosphorus, and the blockade on the Gaza Strip, which Amnesty International has described as collective punishment. Israel's government warns civilians to evacuate the north, only to airstrike them as they leave. The government warns civilians to leave Palestine, but still maintains a militarized border fence while destroying humanitarian corridors. Israel warns civilians to evacuate hospitals, but how can you possibly move people on life-preserving machines without killing them? The WHO itself has said, quote, under international humanitarian law, healthcare must always be protected. Since the last time you on the Council have heard our public statements, the Palestinian death toll has risen to 8,000 people. Because of the blockade enforced by Israel, Gaza has run out of fresh water. The rescue vehicles have run out of fuel. Palestinians are being forced to make decisions whether to retrieve the bodies of the dead loved ones from the rubble or to try and dig out the living. Over 100 children are killed every day. Even the families of the Israeli hostages are now calling on Netanyahu to accept an all-for-all deal to exchange all Palestinian political prisoners for the 200 Israeli hostages. Why won't the Israeli government accept this exchange? Instead, the IDF airstrikes with absolutely no regard for even the Israeli hostages' safety. What more could it possibly take for our mayor and our city council to show the bare minimum of humanity and acknowledge these atrocities? Richmond, California has passed a resolution supporting Palestinians in Gaza, accusing Israel of ethnic cleansing. To quote their vice mayor, Richmond is not an island. Our tax dollars are funding this war in Gaza, and we have a moral obligation to speak out. For council members still on the fence, this is your chance to stand on the right side of history.
Next, we have Basma Hamid from Ward 13 to talk about Palestine and representing no one and not being paid by anyone. Is Basma Hamid here? Basma Hamid. Basma Hamid. I do not see Basma Hamid. Therefore, we will move on to Kareem Ragab. Kareem Ragab. And Kareem is from the Shaker Square, Larchmere area. The topic that Kareem would like to discuss is Palestine. He is not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. You have the floor, sir.
Dear members of Cleveland City Council, I stand before you today to request that you do more with your positions of power to fight for peace, for an end to bloodshed, and for a ceasefire in Gaza. I work as a teacher in a mental health hospital, and every day I deal with kids who have been traumatized by violence. Many of them want to kill themselves because of violence they have witnessed or violence that has been done against them. I imagine a kid growing up in Palestine, what they are surrounded by, how they're treated by the Israeli government, and it makes me want to cry. Any of those kids I see blown apart on Twitter could be my kid, could be your kid. I really think that the children of the world are a collective responsibility. I hope for a world where we can all call each other sister and brother and mean it, where we don't hate based on lines drawn in the sand and the chance of birth, or by the words and legacies of dead men that haunt us like ghosts, halting us from creating a better world. I hope for a world where there are no second-class citizens, nobody forcing anybody from their homes, where everyone is treated like a true equal. This summer, I took a trip to South Africa and spoke with a taxi driver in Cape Town, where they have multiple statues of Nelson Mandela. I talked to him about apartheid. He said he saw the exact same thing being done by the government of Israel as had been done by the apartheid regime of South Africa. Right or wrong, history is written by the victors, and those with money and the status quo control the narratives we tell ourselves to be true. Hundreds of Palestinians were killed by Israeli forces between January 1st and October 4th of this year, many of them kids. People who have grown up in Gaza have faced decades of denial of being treated as valuable, denial of freedom, denial of any real voice on the world stage. Do you think Israel's treatment of Palestinians is normal, is justified? We are told that Palestinians are human animals, according to one Israeli defense minister, and that Palestine needs to be turned into a parking lot, according to a local politician. How do we allow humans to be treated like second-class citizens still in the 21st century? I suppose our country, too, was a European colonial project built on bones of genocide and slavery. Maybe that's why it's so easy to support Israel blindly without criticizing years of human oppression. I don't believe violence is the answer. Ethno-nationalism, putting beliefs and identities which divide us ahead of the root human experience which we share, that, as far as I can see it, is the problem. We need to transcend ideas of national and religious identity and look one another in the face afresh. We are all just humans trying our best to be happy. We all want to love and receive love in turn. Please, Council, use your voice to speak out for the Palestinians. 2. I am Arab. We are human, we exist, and we are hurting. Hate, fear, and genocide are not the answer. We need to try to understand each other, because only together can we build a world where our children can grow up enjoying this miracle existence. The sky has no borders, it's all of ours to share.
Madam Clerk, please share communications.
There are none.
Are there any condolence resolutions?
Resolutions of condolence by Council Members Griffin and McCormick for Julie Ann Rittenhouse.
Are there any other condolences? Councilman Mike Palencia? Seeing no other condolences, will all council members rise for a moment of silence? Thank you. Are there any congratulatory resolutions?
None.
Councilman Conwell has a presentation. If he could join us up front, and if we can open up the well for his guest.
Fatherhood and manhood means a lot to me. And my son introduced me to him last week. He was at Glen Village, and a lot of the residents, they really like you, and you stand up about your mother. His mom passed away in 2009 from cancer. And LeVar Jacobs from Akron. I want to thank you for giving us LeBron James also. You did a good job with that. So that's a good piece. So LeVar Jacobs started an organization dealing with cancer, and this is Cancer Awareness Month in October for breast cancer. But he's saying, his organization says, it's not about just October. LeVar Jacobs' organization, he started a nonprofit 501c3 that was created in 2014 to expand the knowledge and resources available dealing with breast cancer patients, survivors, and their families, not just October, is dedicated to fostering a culture of encouragement, advocacy, and total support of people dealing with breast cancer through the promotion of education, community engagement, not just October, hopes to improve awareness around breast cancer and effects on families around the world. Not just October is dedicated to not only increasing the awareness around breast cancer and its effects on families, but also to helping breast cancer patients, survivors, and their loved ones to live a comfortable life. LeVar Jacobs founded the organization in memory of his mother, Kim Jacobs, who passed away in 2009 from breast cancer, seeing firsthand how his mother struggled to do everyday activities. His vision to change the way that our community think and talk about breast cancer came to fruition through the development of Not Just October. Jacobs' mission is to continue to stress the importance of regular health screenings, self-exams, and to improve the quality of life of breast cancer patients. Jacob, you want to say something real quick?
Thank you all. When my mother passed away in 2009, I had no idea what my purpose in life was. But being in the room when my mom took her last breath, that filled me up with my purpose. So once I started Not Just October, I've devoted every moment of my time, every minute of my day to making sure that women who are battling breast cancer don't have to worry about anything. We opened the Kim Jacobs Breast Cancer Center in Ohio, Akron, Ohio, just to make sure women had a safe haven that they could come to get a massage, to get a wig, to get food, just to see a smiling face when they walk through the door. Women who are battling breast cancer are going through the toughest battle of life. So that's why you need to make sure you do your self-tests, your mammograms, and anyone that you know that's going through anything, just make sure that they feel heard and they feel seen, because we're all going through something. And it's important that women who are battling breast cancer and all of us feel the love that's all over the world for us. And we're just going to continue to make a difference. If you want to reach out, we're at www.notjustoctober.org. We're at Not Just October on all social media and everything. I would love to hear from you. We're just trying to change the world and make sure women who are battling breast cancer don't have to worry about anything all year and not just during the month of October. Thank you.
There you are, man. So, young Jacob, on behalf of the 375,000 residents in the city of Cleveland and all 17 Cleveland City Council members, we want to thank you, and then we award you the Champion Awards for helping out and to keep it moving forward. You know, we live through our children. So you see your mother is within you, and we want to thank you very, very much. We'll do this picture, then we'll move on with the city business. Thank you, and thank you very much, and God bless. So, great job, great job.
Madam Clerk, first reading, emergency ordinances referred for administrative review, committee review.
Ordinance 1233, 2023, by council members Hairston and Griffin by departmental request to amend Section 9 of Ordinance 371, 2022, passed May 16, 2022, relating to conducting the exterior paint program. Ordinance 1249, 2023, by council members Hairston and Griffin by departmental request to amend the third whereas clause in Section 1 of Ordinance 712, 2023, to supplement the ordinance by adding a new whereas clause and a new Section 5, and to renumber existing Sections 5, 6, and 7 to new Sections 6, 7, and 8, relating to agreements with various private nonprofit organizations to address vacant or abandoned properties and to provide financing for home repairs and to small business economically impacted by COVID-19. Ordinance 1250, 2023, by council members Polensek and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Community Relations Board to apply for and accept a grant from the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, to conduct the 2024 Cleveland Youth Diversion Program. Ordinance 1251, 2023, by council members Polensek and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Safety to apply for and accept a grant from the Ohio Department of Public Safety for fiscal year 2024 Impaired Driving Enforcement Program and Selective Traffic Enforcement Program. Ordinance 1252, 2023, by Councilmember Gray, authorizing the Director of Economic Development to enter into a grant agreement with Burton Barrel Car Development, Inc., or its designee, to provide economic development assistance to partially finance renovation of storefronts and office space associated with the Moreland Theater building on Buckeye. Ordinance 1253, 2023, by Council Members KZ and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of hauling and disposing of residuals from the Crown Water Works plant and in emergencies other water treatment plants, authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more requirement contracts without competitive bidding with Polydyne, Inc. for polymer chemicals needed for dewatering Crown's residuals for the Division of Water, Department of Public Utilities for a term up to 2 years. Ordinance 1254, 2023, by council members Hairston and Griffin by departmental request to amend the fourth whereas clause in Section 1 of Ordinance 671, 2023, relating to authorizing the Director of Community Development to provide financial assistance to projects providing housing in the city of Cleveland. Ordinance 1255, 2023, by council members Bishop and Hairston by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Works to execute a deed of easement granting to the West Creek Conservancy or the entity identified to accept conservation easements for certain easement rights in property located at the Cleveland Enterprise Park in the village of Highland Hills, and declaring that the easement rights granted are not needed for public use, and authorizing the city to enter into one or more agreements with the West Creek Conservancy or the entity identified to accept conservation easements to administer the conservation easement. Ordinance 1256, 2023, by council members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request to amend sections 185.01 and 08 of the codified ordinances as amended by various ordinances, to repeal section 185.02, advertisement for bids, and to supplement the codified ordinances by enacting new sections 185.011, 012, and 185.02 relating to construction contracting. Ordinance 1257, 2023, by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Finance on behalf of the Office of Urban Analytics and Innovation to apply for and accept a grant from the Cleveland Foundation for the Open Data Culture and Processes Program, which will support the mission of that office, to enter into various written standard purchase and requirement contracts, and authorizing the Director to employ one or more professional consultants to implement the grant. Ordinance 1258, 2023, by council members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, determining the method of making the public improvement of designing and constructing various types of structures at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, authorizing the Director of Port Control to enter into one or more contracts for the making of the improvement.
First reading emergency ordinances to be passed.
Ordinance 1259, 2023, by council members House, Jones, and Hairston, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the 6th annual Cleveland Current Dash event on February 10th, 2024, managed by Hermes Sports and Events. Ordinance 1260, 2023, by Councilmember Griffin, authorizing the Director of the Department of Community Development to enter into agreement with Fairfax Renaissance Development Corporation for the public purpose of providing the 2023 food card distribution program through the use of Ward 6 casino revenue funds. Ordinance 1261, 2023, by Councilmember Bishop, authorizing the Director of Department of Community Development to enter into agreement with Union Miles Development Corporation for the public purpose of providing the 2023 food card distribution program through the use of Ward 2 casino revenue funds. Ordinance 1262, 2023, by Councilmembers Gray and Starr, authorizing the Director of Department of Community Development to enter into agreement with Burton Bell Card Development Corporation for the public purpose of providing the 2023 food card distribution program through the use of Wards 4 and 5 casino revenue funds.
Read the motion, suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Harsh, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Polensek.
Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 14 yeas.
Call the roll on passage.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 14 yeas.
Thank you. Second reading emergency ordinances to be passed.
Ordinance 1004, 2023, by Councilmembers Polensek and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Safety to enter into one or more agreements with Cuyahoga County for the administration and operation of the Family Justice Center and to pay the county for its share of costs for a period up to 4 years. Ordinance 1005, 2023, by Councilmembers Polensek and Griffin by departmental request, to amend Section 6 of Ordinance 866, 2021, relating to applying for and accepting a grant from the United States Department of Homeland Security for fiscal year 21 Port Security Grant Program for the purchase of a police boat. Ordinance 1080, 2023, by Councilmembers Casey, Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to enter into one or more agreements with the City of Lakewood regarding the public improvement of resurfacing Lakewood Heights Boulevard to, among other things, allow Lakewood to make public improvements in the City of Cleveland on Lakewood Heights Boulevard between Jocelyn Road to Berea Road, and to cause payment to the City of Lakewood for the city's portion of the improvement. Ordinance 1081, 2023, by Councilmembers Gray, Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to enter into an agreement or agreements with Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority regarding the public improvement of constructing infrastructure improvements as part of the Woodhill Choice Estate project to, among other things, allow CMHA to make the public improvement to Woodhill Choice Estates, to apply for and accept any gifts or grants for this purpose from any public or private entity, authorizing any relative agreements, and to cause payment to CMHA for the city's portion of the improvement. Ordinance 1085, 2023, by Councilmembers Casey, Slife, Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, giving consent of the City of Cleveland to the County of Cuyahoga for resurfacing of West 140th Street from Puritas Avenue to Lakewood Heights Boulevard, authorizing Director of Capital Projects to enter into agreements to apply for and accept an allocation of the county motor vehicle license tax funds, to apply for and accept any gifts or grants from any public or private entity, and to cause payment to the county for the city's share of the improvement. Ordinance 1157, 2023, by Council Members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to employ one or more consultants to provide professional services necessary to rehabilitate Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard Bridge, to apply for and accept any gifts or grants for this purpose from any public or private entity, and authorizing the Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to acquire, accept, and record for right-of-way purposes any real property and easements necessary to make the improvement. Ordinance 1087, 2023, by Council Members Starr, Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, to vacate all of East 59th Street from Central Avenue to Hawthorne Avenue and a portion of Hawthorne Court from East 59th Street to permanent parcel number 118-19030. Ordinance 1089, 2023, by Council Members McCormack, Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, giving consent of the City of Cleveland to the Director of Transportation of the State of Ohio to resurface Quigley Road and West 3rd Street in the City of Cleveland, authorizing agreements and causing payment to the state for the city's share of the improvement. Ordinance 1192, 2023, by Council Members Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Economic Development to enter into a grant agreement with the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission or its designee to provide financial assistance to organize and administer programs for marketing the City of Cleveland as a venue for sporting events, and to actively market the public auditorium as a premier site for the hosting of the major events. Ordinance 1199, 2023, by Council Members Griffin and Hairston by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Economic Development to enter into a grant agreement with the Greater Cleveland Media Development Corporation, DBA Greater Cleveland Film Commission or its designee, to assist with the general operating expenses of the organization. Ordinance 1235, 2023, by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Finance to pay as moral claims the sums opposite the names of the claimants. Ordinance 1236, 2023, by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Finance to employ one or more consultants or travel agents to provide travel booking services and products for all city employees for a period of 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Finance. Ordinance 1237, 2023, by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Finance to employ one or more professional consultants to provide workers' compensation and actuarial services for a period of 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Finance. Ordinance 1238, 2023, by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, to provide for the transfer and amendment of $4,700,000 within the Major Enterprise Fund.
Second reading, emergency ordinances to be passed. Or read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Harsh, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Polensek.
Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 14 yeas.
Call the roll on passage.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 13 yeas.
Okay, are there any introductions? Any introductions? Any introductions? Councilwoman Jasmine Santana.
Thank you, President. I would like to introduce Rick Nagan, who's been like a 40-year civic engagement organizer in Ward 14. He was also Ward 14 executive assistant back in the days, right, Rick? Way, way back in the days. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more introductions? Seeing no other introductions, are there any other announcements? I'll make one brief announcement. Myself and Councilwoman Deborah Gray are hosting a utility fair. I know a lot of you have already held it, but please let your residents know there will be a utility fair over at John Hay High School this Saturday, 2075 Stokes Boulevard, a utility assistance fair given in partnership with the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District. So please pass that on to all your constituents. All are welcome. It goes from 9 until 11 is when they have signups, and then they'll actually have a walk-in appointments at 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock. So please make sure you let everyone know that. Councilwoman House, and then Councilman Slight.
Greetings. So I just wanted to remind people we are in the season of Halloween, and a lot of people have been doing trunk or treats, and so I'll give a shout out to Big City Boo that is going on. I'm gonna shout out to my centers because we be doing it up Sterling, Kovacic, and Thurgood Marshall Recreation Center from 5 to 7 tomorrow. Make sure the babies are dressed warm for just some good family fun, and that's all across the city. So visit your neighborhood resource and recreation center. Also, I got a call today from one of our seniors who was asking, is it too late for people to get their vote by mail applications? And so I was really trying to work her through the process. Really, hopefully she can contact her daughter that will be able to go for it. But people, they are tomorrow, Tuesday, October 31st is the last day for those who are trying to vote. If you want to vote by mail, that's the last day to do it. There are extended early voting hours in person down at the Board of Elections, so please make sure you do that. And we do have an election coming up, so again, really just want to encourage people to make sure you exercise your right to vote. Policy is on the table. There are candidates that are on the ballot. And again, you cannot know what people want if you do not engage in this process. So again, just really wanted to lift it up. It's very important for people to express their votes. So thank you.
Thank you. Say that again. We could just what? Madam Clerk, just excuse the absences. Hold on. Let me get Charlie. We ain't gonna let them end our meeting. Hold tight. I'm going to ask security to remove these folks if they do not end this meeting. I can't hear you. What? I'm going to ask if we can escort our guests out of here. Do I need to do it myself? Thank you. I'm not going to cut the meeting off. I got 2 more council. I got 2 more people. I ain't ending the meeting for them. We're going to ask if our guests can be removed. We have 2 more council members that have the floor. We have 2 more council members that have the floor. Councilman Charles Slife, you have the floor. Councilman Charles Slife has the floor. Please proceed, Councilman Slife.
Thank you, Council President.
Listen. I'm not going to let them end this meeting. We have 2 other council members that would like to make remarks. We have heard patiently from everybody on this floor. The 2 council members have the floor and have the opportunity to make remarks. Councilman Charles Slife and then Councilman Joseph Jones.
Thank you, Council President. Just very briefly, I wanted to build off of Councilwoman House Jones's statements about tomorrow. There was a bit, I don't know if you all have been getting a lot of phone calls, but there's confusion between Big City Boo and Trick or Treat. So I just wanted to underscore Big City Boo is happening at 5 to 7 at our city rec centers. However, Trick or Treat is from 6 to 8. I think they were conflated in some media reports. So just to anyone listening and was wondering, 6 to 8 is Trick or Treat. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Joseph Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I rise up, and first I want to thank the people who stayed after. The people who stayed after, because a lot of folks left. But not often do we see this chamber filled up. When we have all the murdering and killing going on in the city of Cleveland, we never see this kind of outpouring. We never see it. So I'm glad that those who stayed here, stay here. And our heart goes out to those who are victims of this war. And so I know that, hold on.
Please, hold up, please. Hey, excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Councilman Jones has the floor. We've listened to all of you have the floor. Councilman Jones has the floor. Please be quiet. Councilman Jones, please continue, Councilman Jones.
We understand that.
Please continue, Councilman Jones.
At the end of the day, death and murder is wrong no matter where it happens at. And so at the end of the day, I'll talk to you after. I'll be out here.
Councilman, direct your comments to me if you could.
I thank the people who did stay here. I appreciate you utilizing this as a public forum so you can talk about the issues. And that's one of the reasons why this is here, so that you can have that opportunity. But in anything, we have to be civil with what we do. And we have to be civil on how we respond. We know that this issue is much bigger than these council members and this mayor in this city. This is a much bigger issue that needs to be dealt with. And it needs to be dealt with fairly. And so I understand that you're saying it starts here, right? But we got a lot of problems that starts everywhere. So, but the only way we're going to achieve and accomplish what we want to achieve and accomplish is one way, by working together. And I'm willing to work with anybody who's willing to work with me. But at the end of the day, let's start talking about how we do that. And with that, I want to just say thank you all for being here. Let's keep it cool. Let's keep it civil.
Thank you, Councilman Jones.
We're not the enemy.
Madam Clerk, please excuse the absences.
By Councilmember Harsh.
Please excuse the absences.
That the absence of council members Bishop, McCormack, and Spencer are hereby excused. Seconded by Councilmember Polensek.
This council is adjourned to the call of the chair. There will not be a council meeting next Monday. The next meeting of council will be Monday, November the 13th. This council is adjourned.